Move over, Ishtar. Chaldea has another Fate Stay Night goddess joining its ranks soon. Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, and in today's Servant Spotlight we'll be taking a look at the goddess who wants to get this quick meta started a whole year early, Parvati. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. Now, onto Parvati's skills. Parvati has a max HP of 13,253 and a max attack of 8,127, which becomes 8,533 when accounting for her Lancer class modifier. The gap between her max HP and attack is pretty huge, and as you can guess, her HP is among the highest compared to the other 4-star Lancers, while her attack ranks second from the bottom. This pattern carries over even outside the Lancer class, as she sports one of the highest HP stats in the game for a 4-star servant, but also one of the lowest attack stats. Parvati's stat spread is as heavily tilted toward defense as can be. To put it in perspective, her HP is comparable to some 5-star servants, while her attack barely surpasses some 3 stars. Taking a look at her skills, her first skill is Imaginary Around rank EX. It increases her quick card effectiveness for 3 turns, and increases her NP gain for 3 turns, both between 20 and 30% depending on level. Her second skill, Ashes of Kama rank EX, increases her attack and defense for 1 turn between 30 and 50%, and it also increases her critical star drop rate and debuff resist for 1 turn between 50 and 100%, both depending on level. And finally, her last skill is Blessings of the Goddess rank A+. It decreases her own NP gauge by 10% as a demerit, but it increases the NP gauge of an ally between 10 and 20%, and restores between 2,000 and 3,000 HP, both depending on level. As for her passives, Parvati has Magic Resistance rank A, which increases debuff resist by 20%, and Core of the Goddess rank B, which applies damage plus 225 to all her cards, and increases damage resist by 22.5%. As for her deck and Noble Phantasm, Parvati has a Quick Buster deck with Quick Arts Buster and a Quick Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm, Trishula Shakti, deals heavy damage to all enemies with between a 600% and 1000% damage modifier depending on level. It also has a 60% chance to inflict charm for 1 turn on all enemies, and it increases the NP gauge of all allies between 10 and 30% depending on overcharge. Taking a closer look at her cards, we see that her quick card hits 3 times, her arts hits twice, her buster hits 3 times, and her extra attack hits 5 times. She has an NP gain rate of 1.08% and a star rate of 11.8%. This translates into great NP gain due to her high NP gain rate and some decent star generating from her high hit count extra card and quick leaning deck. Parvati is one of those servants whose immediate usefulness is hard to gauge. On paper, her stats fit the bill of a tank with her incredibly high HP pool and low attack, and her good star gen and amazing NP gain are usually traits found in supports, but her skills are surprisingly geared heavily toward offense. Her first skill, Imaginary Around, gives her a very short cooldown quick buff and improved NP gain. This skill is Parvati's bread and butter, and she should use it as much as possible, as it not only increases her overall damage, but also enables her to supercharge her NP gauge and produce even more stars for the team. Imaginary Around also has a good bit of synergy with her second skill, Ashes of Kama. Ashes of Kama is best thought of as a super steroid skill that greatly enhances Parvati's offense and defensive capabilities. The 50% attack buff stacks multiplicatively with Imaginary Around, enabling some good damage despite Parvati's low attack. The 50% defense buff alone also allows Parvati to withstand most things an enemy can throw at her, including some enemy Noble Phantasms. And the buff to star generating pairs well with her quick buff for huge star generating output, especially on NP turns. Parvati's final skill serves as one of her main sources of team utility. Blessings of the Goddess heals a target ally for a decent amount of HP and charges their Noble Phantasm gauge by 20%. Like all of her other skills, it's only on a 5-turn cooldown, meaning you could potentially get multiple uses out of this skill in some fights. However, do keep in mind that it does come at the cost of 10% NP gauge from Parvati, so targeting yourself with the skill is not advised unless you're desperate for some healing. Skill priority for Parvati is Imaginary Around first, as that is your primary source of damage and NP gain, followed by Ashes of Kama for that excellent scaling, and then finally Blessings of the Goddess as it's more situational. Parvati's NP is an AoE that has the chance to inflict charm and increases the NP gauge of all your allies. There is a lot to unpack here. Firstly, her damage is decent despite being AoE, mainly because Parvati has 2 strong buffs. Although, when using this Noble Phantasm without her second skill active, the damage drops off considerably. But more important than the damage is the utility that Parvati's Noble Phantasm provides. A 60% chance to charm may seem very low, but Parvati's amazing NP gain allows her to NP multiple times very easily in succession, giving you multiple chances to apply the stun, making her an excellent choice in stun lock teams alongside servants like Uriel and Steno. Finally, much like Tamamo, Parvati's Noble Phantasm also charges the party's NP gauge. As I mentioned, Parvati can easily Noble Phantasm in back-to-back turns, and she also has her third skill which grants 20% NP charge to an ally, meaning Parvati herself makes for an excellent NP battery for other servants, something that quick teams very much lack. Parvati is a servant that revolves around her Noble Phantasm, and to her credit, she has one of the most versatile ones in the game. It's just strong enough to clear most normal enemy waves, while also providing the additional benefit of being able to stall out some enemies and support your party. This versatility makes her a great addition to most quick teams, and on her own, she is a top tier farmer because she can Noble Phantasm spam so easily. In fact, as the meta becomes more and more focused around farming and NP spam, Parvati is going to become increasingly more relevant, meaning she's not only good at release, but she's also going to scale excellently into the late game. But as strong as Parvati is, she does have some glaring weaknesses. Chief among them is her own lack of power. When her second skill is not active, her NP is going to hit like a wet noodle, and even with it active, her damage is a far cry away from someone like Lancer Artoria Alter, which means her boss killing potential is very weak. It also hurts that her third skill doesn't work well on herself. Because she's so heavily reliant on her Noble Phantasm, it would help a lot to have a straight 20% NP charge skill for immediate turn 1 use with Kaleidoscope. Finally, she has no hard defense. Her defense buff is great, but it only lasts a single turn, and more often than not, you're going to be using that skill offensively, so despite having a heal and a 50% defense buff in her kit, Parvati is surprisingly fragile. Although she does have a fair bit of weaknesses, they can be easily compensated for in the right teams. Parvati's role on the team can be divided into 2 functions: farmer or support. Primarily, you're going to want her for farming, as that is her best role. Placing her with servants that can buff her NP gain and quick card effectiveness can allow her to NP loop and deal some good damage over time. So I highly recommend pairing her with servants like Helena, Ishtar Rider, and Osakabe Hime. Helena provides instant 20% NP charge for Parvati, as well as a good quick buff. I normally don't recommend unreleased servants, but Osakabe Hime will be out in NA very soon, and she provides everything that Parvati needs: a high uptime quick buff, a heal, 20% NP charge, and additional star generating. And if you don't have Osakabe Hime, Ishtar Rider is a good substitute, as she can also provide a low cooldown quick buff and NP gain buff. As for support, it's good to pair Parvati with servants who can utilize her charm, NP charging, and star generating. So I recommend Steno, Caster Gil, and Maid Alter. Steno and Parvati make for a great stun lock combo with their charm spam. Caster Gil can increase your chance of landing charms by 30%, and he also drastically buffs your star generating. In fact, between Caster Gil's buff and your own buff, Parvati can reach an unprecedented 200% buff to her star generating. And Maid Alter is a servant that has trouble charging her own NP, so she benefits greatly from Parvati's use as an NP battery and her star generating, while also being able to buff Parvati's quick cards. Parvati's Bondcraft Essence is Bull of Fertility. It boosts quick card effectiveness and NP gain of all allies by 10%. This is very good if you plan on running her as a support. Other good Craft Essence options for support Parvati include Record Holder, Seaside Luxury, 2030, and Burning Love Story. Seaside Luxury and 2030 are perfect if Parvati is your primary star generator, Otherwise, Record Holder and Burning Love Story are going to allow you to stun much more consistently. And if you're using Parvati as your farmer, your go-to craft essences are Kaleidoscope, Cute Orangeette, Imaginary Around, and Someday in Summer, all depending on how much damage you want to do versus how much spammability you need for any given situation. In the future, be on the lookout for Imperial Capital Holy Grail War, as it buffs your quick card and buster card effectiveness as well as your NP gain, which helps Parvati's overall damage and NP charge capabilities. Overall, Parvati is an excellent addition to any quick team. She provides great value that is lacking in the current quick meta, namely her NP charge and some stall potential. But even more so than that, she is one of the best farmers in the game thanks to her highly spammable Noble Phantasm, and her value only goes up as more and more quick supports become available. However, she does suffer from overall lack of damage and can be somewhat fragile, and her inability to charge her Noble Phantasm right away can be frustrating. But these are minor inconveniences or ones that can be easily compensated for by many teams, so overall Parvati gets an A from me. In a lot of ways, this is what I wanted Nidochris to be, a servant who's not only a top tier farmer, but also can provide some additional value to the team no matter what circumstance you're in. And those are my thoughts on Parvati. To be honest, I am not sure when she's coming out in NA. It could be as early as next week so it can line up with the JP release schedule, or as late as Thanksgiving to tie in with the release of Heaven's Feel Lost Butterfly in the US. But whatever the case may be, let me know when you think she'll be out and if you plan on rolling for her in the comments below. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over at our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter. And I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight. So Brony out. Later.